Research shows that the number one reason traders fail isn't a bad strategy. It isn't poor risk management. It isn't even bad timing. It's this: they have a plan, a good plan, a plan they built themselves, believed in, and committed to, and then they override it every single time. Let me paint you a picture. You're in a trade. You set your stop exactly where your system told you to. You know the level, you draw the line, you made the rule. And then price moves towards that stop. And something happens. Not in your head, in your body. A heat starts in your chest and moves up into your jaw, a stubbornness, a certainty that almost feels like clarity. No, I'm not stopping out here. I know better. The market is wrong. And you move the stop, or you add to the position, or you just close the platform entirely and walk away, refusing to manage it at all, because something in you, something ancient and fierce and deeply familiar, just said, "You're not the boss of me." And it cost you. Again, that voice isn't recklessness. That voice isn't arrogance. That voice is a survivor. And today we're going to talk about where she came from and what she actually needs. Welcome back to the Healing Trade. I'm Devin. I'm a certified life coach specializing in childhood trauma, a Reiki master, and I've been actively trading for 13 years. I'm not observing any of this from the outside. I've lived every single one of these archetypes myself. And I built this channel because I couldn't find anyone else sitting at this exact intersection. Healing work and real trading experience. So here it is. Okay, so we're in part 4 of our 5-part archetype series, the 5 trauma responses that show up in most traders. We've talked about the panic seller who exits too early out of fear, the revenge trader who can't stop going back in, the freezer who can't pull the trigger at all. Well, today we're talking about the one who does all those things and more, the overrider, the trader who has the rules, wrote the rules, believes in the rules, and breaks them anyway. This is my story more than any other archetype in this series, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. Here's what makes the overrider so maddening to themselves and everyone around them. They're often brilliant traders. They understand markets. Their analysis is good. Their system is sound. Their rules, when followed, actually work. But they don't follow them. They move stops. They add to losing positions. They take trades outside their plan. They ignore their own signals. They go rogue. Not occasionally, but compulsively. And the brutal irony is this: the overtrader built the rules themselves. Nobody handed them a rule book. They created it. They tested it. They know it works, and they still can't follow it. From the outside, they look undisciplined or reckless, maybe even arrogant. But from the inside, it doesn't feel like arrogance. It feels like necessity, like something would be violated, something essential and non-negotiable if they just did what they were told, even by themselves, especially by themselves. And that feeling is history, a very specific, very personal history. The overrider grew up in an environment where rules were not safe, not just inconvenient, not just frustrating, unsafe. Maybe the rules kept changing. Maybe following the rules didn't protect them. Being good didn't prevent bad things from happening. Maybe the rules were enforced with pain, with punishment, with a kind of control that felt less like guidance and more like domination. Maybe they tried everything. They tried being perfect. That didn't work. The approval they needed never came, or came so rarely and unpredictably that it couldn't be trusted. They tried being good, and good didn't keep people home, didn't stop the chaos, didn't make them safe. They tried following every rule, every lesson, every expectation, every demand. And it still wasn't enough. And when it wasn't enough, there was pain, real, physical, undeniable pain. So at some point, maybe as a teenager, maybe earlier, something in them decided, if following the rules doesn't keep me safe anyway, then I'm done following the rules. And defiance was born, not from arrogance, from exhaustion. From a child who had tried every compliant option available to her and found that none of them worked. You are not the boss of me wasn't rebellion. It was the last boundary a person has when everything else has been taken. It was self-preservation, and I know this because it was mine. I grew up in a home where being good didn't bring my father home. He was an over-the-road truck driver, gone more than he was there. Where being bad brought physical punishment, hitting, for fidgeting, for just being a child in a body that needed to move. Where excellence was demanded but never really celebrated. Where love felt conditional, but the performance bar kept shifting. Where I tried everything, good, bad, perfect, invisible, and none of it worked. So I became a rebel. Not because I was bad, because I was surviving. And that rebel, that fierce, defiant, you are not the boss of me little girl, she grew up and sat down at a trading screen. And every time a rule tried to tell her what to do, she overrode it. Not to lose money, not to be reckless, to feel free, to have one thing nobody could ever take from her: her own authority over herself. So here's what took me a long time to understand. The defiance that saved me as a child, that kept some essential part of me intact through the environment that could have broken me completely. That same defiance became my greatest liability at the trading screen. Because the market isn't my mother. The rules aren't a weapon being used against me. My stop loss isn't a punishment. My trading system isn't trying to control me. But my nervous system didn't know that. My nervous system felt a rule and fired the same response it always had: resist, override, stay free. And I lost money. Not because my analysis was wrong, but because that little girl was still fighting a battle that ended decades ago. She fought so hard, for so long, with everything she had. And she deserved someone to finally look at her and say, "You are safe now. You can put the fight down. The rules you make for yourself now aren't weapons. They're wings. They're how you fly." That's reparenting. Not discipline. Not punishment. Not more rules. Reparenting. Telling that fierce, beautiful, exhausted little girl, "I've got you. I've got you, and you don't have to fight anymore. You're free. And the rules you set are part of that freedom, not a threat to it." So what does healing look like for the overrider? Well, it starts with something I call the sovereignty practice. And I named it that intentionally because the overrider doesn't respond to discipline. They respond to sovereignty, to choice, to ownership. Here's how it works. Before your trading session, Before you open a single chart, I want you to do 3 things. Step 1, claim your rules as yours, not your mentor's rules, not a strategy you read about, your rules, written in your words, in first person, not the stop goes at X, but I choose to place my stop at X because I value my capital and my longevity as a trader. Feel the difference? One is a rule imposed on you. The other is a sovereign decision you are making for yourself. The overwriter can follow rules she made. She struggles to follow rules that feel handed down. So make them yours, completely, explicitly, powerfully yours. Step 2. Before you override, pause and ask one question. Am I making a trading decision right now? Or am I making a childhood decision? Because there's a difference. A trading decision is based on price action, levels, context. A childhood decision is based on that old, familiar heat in the chest, that ancient no. Name which one it is, out loud if you can or if you have to. Step 3, give the rebel a job. This is the most important one. The rebel in you isn't going away. She shouldn't go away. That fire, that defiance, that fierce autonomy, those are gifts. They kept you alive. But instead of letting her run the trades, give her a different job. Let her be the one who refuses to let fear make decisions. Let her be the one who won't let the market bully her into panic selling. Let her be the guardian of your trading boundaries, not the one who breaks them, but the one who protects them. The rebel becoming the protector. That's reparenting the overrider. If today landed, if you felt that fire, that fierce, you are not the boss of me energy in your own trading, I want to invite you into something that was built with you specifically in mind. The Healing Trade course, Speak Directly to the Overtrader. Week 4, Letting Go of Control. Because the overrider's deepest work isn't learning that releasing control isn't surrender. It's sovereignty. And week 6, Integration and Sacred Practice. Because the overrider doesn't just need to understand the wound. They need a new structure that feels like freedom, not a cage, not a rule book handed down from someone else, a sacred practice they choose, that they own completely. Full course runs 9 weeks, beginning with trading from the wound and moving all the way through to the 3 bonus weeks, Surrender, Rebirth, and Quantum Healing. This course was built by someone who lived the overrider wound from the inside. I built this because I needed it, and it didn't exist. The course, workbook, and one-on-one coaching are all linked in the description. Also, if you're ready for community, people who understand exactly what you're going through, Overtraders Anonymous meets twice a week online. It's free. The link is in the description. You don't have to do this alone. The rebel in you kept you alive. Now let her help you thrive. Next week, we close out the series with the 5th and final archetype. And this one might surprise you because on the surface, the euphoric overtrader looks like they're winning. They're confident, they're aggressive, they're making money, sometimes a lot of it. And then they give it all back, mostly in one session, chasing the high. Because the euphoric overtrader isn't trading for profit, trading for a feeling. And that feeling, that euphoria, is feeling something much deeper than a winning trade ever could. If you've ever felt almost addicted to the markets, to the highs, to the action, to the way a big win makes everything else disappear for a moment, next week is for you. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Drop a comment below. Tell me if you recognize yourself in the overrider today. Every comment gets read. And remember, the most important trade you'll ever make is the one you make with yourself. I'll see you next week.